Okay, guys, so talking a little bit more about the whole Kanryo Higaonna and the China link. Um, I've always had a little bit of a problem with this in that you have so many conflicting stories and you have a distinct lack of documentation. What little documentation there is appears to point toward a much shorter time in China. And again, even that documentation is at odds with the article which we shared a couple of days ago from translated from Andreas Quast. So, I spent a lot of time looking into the history. I got to speak to first generation students of Miyagi. I spoke to a lot of people within the Chinese community, both in New York Chinatown and London Chinatown, who still had links to Fuzhou and to the Southern Chinese arts, and had experienced that culture because they were part of it. And the overall consensus between the people I spoke to was that it couldn't have happened for a youngster to have come from Okinawa to China, which at that time was on the back of the Boxer Rebellion. It was on the back of the whole, the whole area being absolutely terrorized by the Waco pirates. Unable to speak the language, unable to finance his own stay, not of an aristocratic background, not from a government sponsorship by way of a specific envoy from Okinawa to go to China for the purpose of developing diplomatic links or trade ties or anything like that. This was an unknown Okinawan youngster who made his way to China off his own back, supposedly with a letter of recommendation from Yoshimura Udon, who did carry weight, who was, an elder scholar and had a lot of close links to China. The story becomes even more hazy once he gets there, supposedly, in that, he's taken under the tutelage of a Ryu Ko, who, with no idea who he is. A possible identity was put forward some years ago from Patrick McCarthy, which was taken from someone in China who was proposing this idea. And again, the idea comes from ultimately trying to draw tourism to the area by providing this link. Oh, look, this is Kanryo Higaonna's teacher. Here's a monument to Kanryo Higaonna. All this lends weight. Now, you got to experience, the way things are done in China, whereby things aren't always as they seem, or things aren't always as they are factually. Sometimes things will be created in order to develop an illusion of lineage or an illusion of authenticity. Shaolin Temple being a prime example. And now the Southern Shaolin Temple, which was burnt to the ground and disappeared, but all of a sudden, no, here it is, and here's its lineage now, all of a sudden tracing back hundreds of years. But a few years ago, this temple didn't exist, and now all of a sudden it's there and it's credible and it's drawing in tourism and money again. So I'll take anything the Chinese say with regard to Okinawan karate with a pinch of salt. I'll take anything the Okinawans say with regard to the Chinese links of Okinawan karate, again, with a pinch of salt. One thing I experienced myself in Okinawa when I was talking to people about matters of history or matters of, certain questions which weren't of a technical nature, more of like history or meaning behind techniques, representations, imagery within the kata. You kind of got the feeling that they were giving you the answer they thought you wanted to hear. So the Okinawans are very, very generous. They're very, very hospitable. I know many of you guys have been over there and experienced it yourself. They love for you to have a great time. They love seeing the enjoyment on your face. They love seeing you relishing in the experience of being on the dojo floor, on hanging on their word, on leaving, having had a great experience there. The problem comes with that, they're so eager to please that sometimes things will get kind of made up. Or, like I say, they'll give you the answer they think you want to hear. And that happened a few times. I know that for a fact, certainly with Hokama Sensei. Some of the answers he gave me, it was like, no, you're just making this up now. You're just making it up as you go along because I'm interested in this. So you've got to be careful where the sources of information come from. That whole kind of like the popular story around Kanryo Higaonna and this trip to China in the West, largely popularized by Mark Bishop and Morio Higaonna, both of whom stories come via Miyazato, Koshiniha, and that Jundokan lineage. I can remember being on the floor when Koshiniha was having a discussion with the seniors that I was kind of earwigging on the side of, where he was talking about the whole Kanryo Higaonna went over to China, he spent 10 years there, and he came back with all the kata of Goju-Ryu. At the time, my Japanese was pretty good. Now it's not so much good, but I was able to earwig and pick out kind of like the salient points. So that was very much the story that was being told in that lineage. My understanding of Meibukan is a very similar story told. Again, come back to Miyagi Chojun sensei. When you get to the Higa lineage, things get a little bit more cloudy. There are certain aspects of that story that start to differ. For example, Cypher coming via Miyagi rather than Higaonna Kanryo. Kulunfa coming from Miyagi via an alternate source other than Kanryo Higaonna. So even within that same camp of Miyagi Chojun, as we come down, we can see differences within the story, which again muddies the waters a little bit. If we go further up, now we go beyond Miyagi Sensei, we go to Kanryo Higaonna himself, what do we know that he taught? Again, there's a problem. We have the Goju-Ryu camp saying he taught the classical kata. We have the Toron-Yu camp saying, well, he only taught 4 of those. I don't believe either of them. I definitely don't believe the Toron-Yu camp, because that's almost become their bragging rights. And I'll see the way they write about the whole Sanseiru thing and the Pechorin thing. I can see it's very much, you know, I hate to say it, but it's marketing. The same as Goju-Ryu do, the same as I do with my own stuff as well. It's all marketing. It's all wrapping things up in a nice little neat package. This is our thing. This is what we do. And it's different than that lot. Likewise, the Goju-Ryu, this is what we do. And it's different than that lot. Now, to throw further problems into it, now we have Ryu-Ryu. Ryu-Ryu, which share many of the same kata. They have Sanseiru, they have Cypher, they have Kulunfa, they have, you know, Seiyunshin. And now they pitch in, say, no. We were there before even Higaonna Kanryo. We were there with Ryu-Ryu before Kanryo Higaonna even got there. Okay, so why does your stuff look like Goju-Ryu? Why does it look like you learned it from Miyagi? There's more to that story. So the Ryu-Ryu history is even more fragmented. It's even more problematic. So we're not going to go there because I'm not in that lineage, but don't believe anything they say either. In short, to kind of like wrap all this up, I don't believe anything. I don't believe anything I'm told anymore with regard to the history, the lineage, the where the kata come from, the why the kata. I don't believe any of it. At the end of the day, what we are presented with as an art is a very, very good system. It's, as the Chinese say, a chop suey system. It's bits of everything mashed together. Or as the Okinawa say, like a champulu system. Again, bits of everything put together. Now the thing with a Goju-Ryu, even though it's a mishmash of a load of different stuff, put together it kind of works. It has a system, it has an approach, it has a structure and a methodology behind it, which is sound. And it can be proven. And it you know, for me personally, I've proven it in the street. I'm applying it in the cage. I'm applying it in all sorts of different manners, which for me suggests that it's consistent, it's applicable, and it's timeless, in that it works just as well now in an ever-changing context as it did back in the early 1900s when Miyagi Sensei was putting it together. Not just me, my own lineage, you know, KO tested this stuff extensively, far more than I ever did, even on the streets and against weapons and all sorts of different situations he got himself into. And again, it was functional, it worked, and it served a purpose, and ultimately he survived. So we have a very, very good system. Taking that out of it, we have a very holistic system that can benefit your body, can benefit your mind. So much around the breathing, so much around lowering blood pressure if you do it right. So much around mindset. So much around functional movement patterns, about mobility. So many areas now where things get neglected, but the Goju-Ryu has a an element of being able to pull it all together. And that was Miyagi Sensei's genius, was to be able to take these different component parts, see their value, and put it into his system, while still maintaining the overall message and the overall methodology. Okay, so whilst the history is interesting, it's important, it's, you know, pay your respect to it, but don't get bogged down in it, because ultimately, like I said before, it's a big, never-ending circle. You'll keep coming back on yourself and finding contradictions. You're never going to find the answer. And anyone who says they have the answer, probably they're trying to make money from it, from tourism, you know. So I'd be very skeptical about anything that's claimed by the Chinese government also. Just to recircle, just something I skimmed on very, very quickly, was around, you know, the conversations I had with people involved in the Chinese community. For a foreigner to come in and learn this stuff, it wouldn't happen. You know, you had the language barrier, you had the clan system, whereby if you weren't part of this clan, you weren't part of our bloodline, you weren't welcome in, you weren't getting in there. And you can see this within the Backmaya systems, within the Southern Mantis system, the Chalgar even, Mr. Ipsoy. He was really kind of like skewed by the community because he wasn't of Hakka lineage. He was the first one, non-Hakka, to learn this family art, which for generations before that had all been Hakka. You have, you know, KO is from the Toisan clan, you know, going back for so even within that, the Toisan, they couldn't train with the Hakka. The Hakka couldn't train with the Chan. It was like all these, none of them mixed. So for an Okinawan to come in and infiltrate that and get excited and get accepted and become the lineage holder and the inheritor of the system, nah, not a chance, no way. Even within the Chinatowns, in this day and age, within the Chinatowns, the communities, they'll talk, but they're still very much at odds. Chinese New Year a couple of days ago, obviously, when I was involved within the Five Ancestors, I used to take part in the Chinatown New Year's parade and part of the lion dance and that stuff. There were always rivalries going on, and there was always threats. So you'd be armed. You know, we'd have bow, and you know, some people would have butterfly knives or whatever and stuff like that, and they'd be hidden around the lion, hidden inside the drum. You'd be carrying the bow, obviously, to help with crowd control, but primarily so you had a weapon in case the rival clan came and attacked you because of an infringement on their territory or whatever it might be. This stuff was still going on. It's still going on to this day. So if you go back sort of like 100, 150 years ago, it's even more prevalent, you know? So again, I'll take the whole Kanryo Higaonna thing with a pinch of salt. What remains, he was by all accounts an exceptional martial artist, so exceptional in fact that he was seen as the hidden man of Nahate, the person who taught Miyagi Chojin, the person who taught Juhatsu Kyoto, the person who taught Kenwan Mabuni, Seiko Higa. All these people who went on to become the greats, they come from him. So make of that what you will, and just enjoy the system that you've inherited as a result. I'll leave it there for now. I'll speak to you soon.